Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the take on this Friday morning, the wild week, the wild month, the wild year. It all continues. As a matter of fact, in the final 3 hours of the trading day yesterday, we had a complete reversal. And when you look at the actual movement, lows to highs, it's pretty extraordinary, quite frankly. But that being said, let's just kind of recap it just for a moment. The Dow was down significantly. It recovered pretty nicely and actually finished almost 100 points higher, about 87 points higher. On the NASDAQ side, right about 8 points into to get it up there. A really, really amazing move in a fairly short period of time once again. And we've been talking 15 minutes all the way up to 3 hours where we get these huge reversals. And that's exactly what we'd seen yesterday. Crude hanging around 97. You got gold about 1935, and that's been kind of edging a little bit higher. What's been going a little bit lower, that's Bitcoin, about 43,500 last, and about 2.6 on the 10-year. That's been kind of steadily gaining. As a matter of fact, gaining again today. Volatility, 21 to upwards of 24, finished the day at about really was the leader, nearly a 2% move to the pretty nice. They added about 1% or a little bit more than 1% towards the end, and then throw in materials. You kind of get the idea of where some of that buying was that actually started turning things. And we certainly did get a pretty nice turn on the upside. It was names like Hewlett-Packard, obviously the story yesterday that broke with Buffett and his stake and everything else, and that was up significantly, up about 14%, as a matter of fact, yesterday. Coming back a little bit today, some commentary coming from some of the brokerage houses in terms of some of the levels and now kind of re-looking, but where they stand right now. Also, retail really did stand out. I'm looking at Target, Costco. We talked about Costco and some of that unusual option activity we'd seen in there. Throw in Walmart. Walmart has hit now, very end of March, we started to see a little bit more positive paper coming in to Walmart, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and a little bit more. We might be talking about a little bit more even today. Then you can look over at the healthcare. I look at Pfizer, I look at Moderna, I look at Merck, all of those having a pretty strong day. O'Reilly also doing pretty well. Then you look over at Chevron, had a pretty nice day. What was kind of pulling back, it makes a little bit of sense. Twitter had that monster run with Elon Musk news, of course, but then you've got to have some kind of adjustment at some point in time. And Elon Musk has taken a stake and board and all the things that they've been talking about, but there's still a lot of action that has to be taken. So you can understand a little bit of a brief pause, at least for now. We'll see how long that pause is. Etsy, another one of those names with a little bit of push to the downside. Throw in some of the casinos like a Wynn yesterday, getting a little bit of a pullback. Throw in the Chinese names with PDD, JD, NetEase, pulling back a little bit. Lucid, Zoom. Then you look over at some of those financials. I got Visa, I got Goldman Sachs, I got American Express, and I got JP Morgan. I mentioned Goldman Sachs. I actually yesterday, after a lot of debate, looking at a specific couple of names that I've been wanting to maybe put a little bit more money to work, I will give you the fact that Goldman Sachs actually won out over Morgan Stanley. I was looking at many different names, but when I looked at Goldman Sachs and I saw how inexpensive it was trading in a lot of different metrics, that was part of the reasoning. So that's a little something that had nothing to do with unusual option activity. So this is not a market rebel thing. This is just a peak thing and how I look at stocks and when I want to make a change or add or sell or whatever. It just yesterday it made sense. It was at a 52-week low, and looking at what I think is going to be happening into the future, it feels to me like by buying that and selling calls, I can do okay. Catalysts still remain. People are still digesting the Fed. A lot of confusion. How much? How big? What is the rate? All of that things are parts of what everybody is now thrown in the mix and trying to figure this whole thing out. The Dow started off the day up 120 points. NASDAQ, not so bad. NASDAQ immediately started to slip as we got into the day. It was down 50, down 100, down 190, down 160. Last I looked, it would actually improved to being down about 110, 112 points. On the other side of things, we did have a pretty quick, sharp fall for the Dow, down 100 points, immediately ratcheted right back up into positive territory, up about 25 points. And last I looked, up 55 points. We'll be watching that very, very closely today. There's a couple of different sectors that are certainly giving a nice push to the markets on both sides. And we'll see how this all plays out. Crude was around 97, then around 96. So we'll call it somewhere between there. 96, 97 is where crude finds itself. We got up to 2.7 today on the 10-year. That's something a lot of people are discussing right now. We were in the 21s. Yes, it's Friday, so you start pricing in the weekend. Maybe not quite yet, but pretty soon. So we're at 21s, but with a little bit of the movement we've had, we got into the 22s. I would expect to see that to pull back a little bit if the markets stay a little bit in a bit of a relatively tight range. We'll see. Gold pushing and knocking at the door of 1950. We talked about it when it got over 2000, pulled all the way back to the low 1900s. And now we've been seeing this sort of stair step to the upside. We'll keep a monitor on that. As a matter of fact, the GDX, GLD having a pretty good day today with gold and what we're seeing there. And we've had a lot of different option paper of late, specifically more in the GLD, but some individual names like Kinross yesterday that I talked about on the halftime report, that we saw some of that activity very right around the end of the halftime report. We had some of that option paper, pretty good size option paper, fairly inexpensive. So leadership today. Yeah, you've got some energy leading the way. You've got a lot of those names that we talk about from the XOP, names like Apache and EOG and Occidental having a really good day, Marathon Oil, all those in a positive set. Also in the material space and throw in gold. I just mentioned gold, but showing some so a little bit of brightness today as well. What's really pulling on the downside? Well, mega cap tech. And that's what I think was really kind of pulling on things early. And we use Tesla all the time as that, measuring stick or barometer. Tesla was down. Apple was down. NVIDIA was down. Google was down. I mean, you go across, you just look at just about everything. Semiconductors across, it's not just NVIDIA. You look at Micron, you look at AMD, you look at Qualcomm, all of those down. So that I think is the real pull that we were seeing. By the way, 2 days ago, we had Kroger for unusual. April 8th, we mentioned, gosh, it's got to happen. And it's got to happen very, very quick. Happened today. They got a nice upgrade. Stock was trading around 58. They were buying the April 60 calls, 5,500 of those. Stock got up and over 62 and a quarter today. So you just never know. But it's part of what we're looking at each and every day when we talk about some of these unusual option activities. WD-40 had a really solid earnings. Even with the guidance being a little bit softer, that was a stock that was moving significantly higher today as well. Just want to point that out as one of the leadership names. WD-40 looking pretty strong today. I mentioned Walmart. I'm going to mention it again now. That's my unusual. By the way, I will be on the halftime report today with more unusual option activity. This is just the early side of things. Walmart. I mentioned Walmart. Well, a lot of people say, well, Pete, if you think it's going to 170, which is what I said last night on the 5 o'clock show, still have to be disciplined. I own options. I'm going to trim options. We'll trim when they have made a certain profitability level. So I was doing some trimming. I'll probably be out of those options soon, but what I'm seeing today might flip me into other options. Buyer of 7,500 of the Walmart stock trading right around 157. They were buying the 165 calls today in April. They got a little bit of time, of course. They've got a couple of weeks actually of time for these to pan out. We'll see. I mean, it should be pretty interesting. Regular expiration, April 165 calls, 28 cents up to 33 cents. So that's number one. Number two, charge point. We're talking about EV charging systems. CHPT is the stock symbol there, trading around 1745. Now, 10,000 of the April 18.5 calls being bought today. They're also selling the 21s. What does that mean? It means that they're buying. They're very, very aggressively buying at 18.5. They don't think it's going to go much over 21. So why not hedge against that? So they're buying the one call, selling the other. And the call that they're buying is inexpensive enough that I wouldn't be doing the other side of that hedge. But anyway, that doesn't really matter. About 40 cents for these 18.5 calls in charge points. So that's something to keep an eye on. Stock trading around 1745 or thereabouts. Folks, I want you to have a great day of trading. If you don't understand the options world, you do want to have some education in there before you ever put a foot in the water. Understand all the ups and downs, risks, and everything else. If you have that understanding, it certainly is a much better experience other than just simply luck. So you just have to understand more about the theta, all the different Greeks, the gamma, the theta, the delta, all of those different things that go into pricing options that we talk about each and every day. Folks, I want you to have a great weekend. I look forward to seeing you on Monday, and hopefully we'll catch you on the halftime report. See ya.